Do you feel the vibes?
What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about why I have not been covering the NBA as much this year. The last video I made was talking about the Steph Curry, Michael Jordan comparisons. And this was a while ago. I've still been watching the games, and it is, like I said, I've said this before. It's difficult to keep up with the NBA games because there's so many. You got games come on just about every night, and I have other things to do, so it's difficult to keep up with those games. But even then, most of the games, just the season as a whole hasn't been as good. Now, more than likely, I'm gonna cover the playoffs. That's because the competition, the games are more than like probably gonna be more competitive, and you're gonna get these upper echelon teams vying for a championship. Now, I would say one of the biggest reasons is just the media push of the Golden State Warriors. Amazing. Let me say this before I say anything else. Amazing team. What they're doing. Wednesday, they're gonna play. They win that game, go 73-9, break the record for most wins, best record in an NBA regular season. So hats off to them. They right now at 72-9. So they've definitely been doing that thing this year. Will not discredit them, but it's just been the whole media push. It's just some of the things they allow them to get away with, which is fair. They're the team. They bring in the most money. They make the NBA a bunch of money. Guys like Steph Curry, he's been marketed like crazy, and the way that team plays is what the league now wants. It's the reason they made those rule changes to have teams up and down the floor, shoot a bunch of threes, highlights, which is fine. They shoot the threes, they make a good percentage of them, so I have no problem with them taking it. But that team is perfect to market in terms of just excitement. They're going to excite the fans. Steph Curry, the things he can do out there, he's going to excite fans. So that's a big reason for one of the media pushes. Which, okay, whatever. But when you watch another game, then you hear about the Golden State Warriors in another game that you're watching. It does get annoying, and you got people that talk about it on Twitter all day. Bring up comparisons, which I haven't been using Twitter as much. I've used it after their last, I want to say. I really haven't even talked about the NBA that much. I'll have days where I do talk about it. I know the last two games I talked about it, just for the hell of it. But I just haven't been getting that much excitement out of the NBA season. The Bulls suck, so I guess that can contribute to it. They're pretty much out of the playoff picture. And you got a bunch of injuries to different players, and it's hurt different teams. And teams that were good last year have been disappointments this year. And you got some teams, of course, when one team plays bad, you're going to have another team step up in their place. But let's talk about some of the teams that are disappointments. Chicago, Washington, they've been having to deal with injuries. Orlando, which, with the young squad that they do have, they got some talented guys on that team, but they have also struggled. And Milwaukee, they were in the playoffs last year. Now they have a losing record. I think they had a losing record going into the playoffs, but they were still a playoff team, a young team. And you bring in Monroe in the offseason, who was a big name free agent, and you still missed the playoffs. We didn't expect, we expected a little bit more out of New York, Brooklyn, Philly. Didn't expect nothing out of them. So they're right where they're at. But you have four teams who you thought would have been way better in that Eastern Conference. In the West, I would say mainly Houston, but Phoenix, well, look where they were at last year. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were right there, and they go 22-58. New Orleans made the playoffs last year, gave Anthony Davis all that money in the offseason out of the playoffs. And I would say Houston's probably the biggest, this is a team, they were, I believe, a top 5 seed in the West. Now there's a chance they don't make the playoffs. And, they need some help from Utah, but there's a chance they don't make the playoffs. And just this is the things, like I said, you're going to have teams that take steps back. But for some of these teams, the Bulls went from third, fourth seed last year to being out of the playoffs. Washington was a higher seed. It's some of the games have, let's just be honest, and some of the games have been really boring. This is my opinion. And this is coming from a guy who, when the NBA was the first professional sport that I really started to watch in the 90s. I didn't get into football till later. So the NBA was the sport I was watching mid to late 90s, of course in the 2000s and up to now. And I watched a lot of games last year. But that's definitely been toned down this year. I haven't been able to watch as many games. Of course, I've been busy doing different things, but I just haven't had I wasn't enthusiastic about watching this game, but I'm gonna watch the playoffs for the reasons I've already given. Hopefully, I get a little bit more excitement out of the playoffs. Last year's was really good. I believe it was a couple of years ago where the first round was one of the best first rounds of the NBA playoffs that I ever seen. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't think we're going to get something like that. It just hasn't been as competitive. Maybe things will change, but injuries, lack of effort from different teams. Of course, there have been some change up with some of these teams, either be coach, personnel, whatnot. So a lot of teams aren't the same, and a lot of teams aren't, they're not as good. But I'm hoping to see it being competitive coming into the playoffs. But let me know what you think down in the comment section about this whole, about this. What do you think about this regular season? Have you been bored with it? Is it not as exciting as last season? Which that's where I'm at. NBA is still great, still a bunch of great players. I've already pointed that out. It's just been a down season. You got Kobe on his last season, and the ratings, while I think it's kind of been exaggerated for them being bad, it hasn't been bad. Still been really good, but you kind of expect with the Golden State Warriors about to break a record. And with Kobe, pretty much his last game is coming up. You expected the ratings to just shoot out the roof. Now, they're good for those games, but for the entirety of the league, with other teams, it's been down. It's definitely been down. And I see why. It just hasn't been as good. But let me know what you think down in the comment section. As I said, like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.